Hey guys, this is E with Scrapbooking with Me, and you can see I've got lots of things out here that I'm playing with this morning. So I thought I'd take you along. I've had lots of questions since some of you received your E-Club kit for this month. I've had lots of questions about the gesso that was in it. So I thought I would give it a play. Now, my gesso is going to look different from yours because I've had this, and it's not what come in the kit, but it's basically the same thing. Even if it's not from the same company, they work the same. So I'm going to use what I have instead of opening another gesso because I love gesso. I've had gesso for years and years and years. So I'm going to show you some different ways to play around and use gesso in your projects. It is a very forgiving medium. It is a very trusting medium, and I absolutely love some of the things that you can do with it. So you have a white gesso and a clear gesso. Now, basically you need to think of the white gesso as maybe a paint that's a sealant. It seals any surface that's porous. You can put gesso on it and it will seal it. So therefore you could after you put gesso on there and let it dry, you can put water on there, all different kinds of liquid mediums, and it's not going to soak down into the paper and ruin things. It's going to sit on the top above the gesso. Same thing with clear. It's going to seal your paper or your project, whatever you're doing with, and it's going to sit on the top where when you put paints and waters and different things on there, it's not going to soak down into the paper. The white gesso you can use to cover lots of different things. Like if you have something, let's say, all right, I'll use this napkin for instance. Now on this side, I applied some of the white gesso. Now I just smeared it. I didn't play around with it. If I was going to use this, I would use a brush and be a little bit more careful. But I was just going to show you. This has got the white on it. And what it does is if you have something that's really bright, it kind of sits it down and pushes it to the background where you can put different layers of things on top of that. The clear gesso is here. This is clear. Now, if you can hear, it makes that napkin, it sealed that napkin, but it makes it a little bit tougher where you can use this napkin on different things. You could even put some water on top of it and it's sealed. I put the clear here, so that is sealed. It makes it tougher. Now, if you could put a thicker layer on there, it'll make it tougher where you could use your scissors and cut things out with. So that's what the gesso does to napkins. Now, I also used some gesso on these little pieces that came in your kit. These, it made them stiffer. So these are, you can hear, it's not just paper anymore. It's got a sealant on there, so it's sealed. Like this butterfly, it's sealed. And it'll curl for a little bit while it's drying, and then it'll flatten back out. But now you could put any kind of medium on top of this, and you wouldn't have to worry about it ruining this paper where it would just tear all to pieces. Let's just play around a little bit. This is just a piece of paper I'm putting behind here. This doesn't have a lot of writing on there, so I'm going to use the stamp that came in your kit. Now, you got a different stamp probably than me. I don't know. We had two different type stamps that we sent out. I'm just going to peel this off. Whoops, sorry about the noise. Sometimes those are pretty hard to peel. But they were both really, really cute, and they were both by Vinemont, I do believe. I think both of them were Vinemont. Now, to put ink down on here, and to have that ink where it won't fade or it won't smear, you need to use an ink that is a permanent ink. So this is a permanent ink. Memento stays on as a permanent ink. So make sure that you use a permanent ink if you're going to do something like this, and then put something else liquid on top of it, because it will smear if you don't. Okay. Now look at that. Isn't that pretty? And see, it looks like it was just made that way. And now this is nice and thick because I put the gesso on there. It's nice and thick, so we can use it on any project. Now let me do Let me do one of these little guys. This does not have any gesso on it. So I'm just going to stamp it like that. And I stamped it in the opposite direction, but that's fine. Now, this is going to take a little bit to dry, and this is not sealed. Remember that. I'm going to lay those two right there and let those dry really well. You need to let your ink dry well before you start trying to do anything else. Now, I think I will, let's see, do we want to apply gesso on this first, or do we want to put some ink on there first? Let's put ink on first. Make sure it's a permanent ink. Tim Holtz is not permanent ink. His inks are not permanent. If you get them wet, they're going to fade and smear. Okay. Ooh, isn't that pretty? I like that. Now, we're going to let that dry, and then I'm going to show you what we can do on top of that. Now, I'm going to lay that there. Lay this up here. Cover this back up. All right, your papers that you got in this month's kit has these white places on here is gesso. This is like a water brushed gesso paper. As you can see, they've brushed paints and gesso's on there. You see that? Gesso or white paint. Basically, you can use it as a white paint if it's the white gesso. So that's the papers that you got in there, and there's tons of those. This is the white gesso and using a stencil. So I'll show you how we use that. Let's do it on one of these this time. And I'm going to put this little thing behind here just so I can protect my surface. So we'll just put it down like that. And I'm not going to go past that top portion up there. Now, my gesso is kind of thick. Yours may not be this thick, and that's good if it's not. It doesn't have to be this thick in order for you to use it. Hold your stencil pretty firm so it doesn't move. And I'm using one of those little silicone brushes. But you could use, if you don't have a brush, you can use like a little butter knife. You can use a piece of cardboard. Anything that you can kind of smear that gesso around with, you can use. You can use a paintbrush too if you want to use that. And a little goes a long way. So the gesso in your kit this month is a stash builder, because it is building up your stash so that you can have this to use for a while. You won't have to replace this for a long time. Like I said, I've had mine for a while, and I use them pretty often. Okay, I'm just going to go over it like this and then pull it back like this. And you can see you pull some back off, and that's fine. Just put it right back in your jar. And then just ease that up, and there you go. Isn't that cute? Now, I will tell you, as soon as you finish using your stencils, make sure that you wash them. Because if you don't, your stencil is going to get dried on there, and then you won't be able to get it off. So I just use some alcohol wipes. You can use just water if you want to. Just put it in your sink. It won't hurt it. And just wipe it off. Now, the reason that ink is smearing on here is because this is one of those little, it's like a plastic piece, so the ink doesn't dry on this. It's like a backing for a sticker is what that is. Okay, and I'm just wiping that off, both sides. And then that's ready to use again. And I'm going to go ahead and just wipe this up. You can see that's the sticker back, so all of that ink comes right off of it. Okay, now I'll lay that over there. Now you do need to let this dry, because you do have a little bit, I don't know if you can be able to see it, little bit of dimension there, not much, but a little bit. So to let that dry, lay that over there with all the other things we've got drying. And now I will show you, let's just do a brush technique on this. Now this is just one of my brushes that I play around with. I use it for gesso and different things. Now like I said, my gesso is thick. Yours may be a little thinner, and that's good. But when I want to do just a dry brush effect using gesso, I just put a little bit on my brush, and then I just start back and forth like that, and just keep pushing it down in there until you get the amount that you want. And then if you want to go a little bit the other direction, you can do that too. I'm just going to go ahead and do this up here too, because it's going to look funny if I don't. So you see, that is exactly what they did on this paper. Let's see, let me find one. Right here. That's exactly what they did there on that paper. Just like that. So if you have something that's really bright that you want to tone down, the white gesso is fantastic for that. And if you want it to be a little bit darker, you just keep adding layers to it. And then it also seals this for you too, just in case you wanted to use a different medium on the top, something that's liquidy, then you could do that and you wouldn't have to worry about it ruining what's underneath. There are tons and tons and tons of videos out there on the different uses of gesso, and I would encourage you to go check those out, because they go into in-depth on using different mediums and gessos and things like that. And I will show you. I'm going to lay this aside and let that dry. We're letting everything dry over here, and it dries pretty quick. This dried in just a few minutes. Alright, say that there. Leave my little wipes down there. This is some of those pages that I have been putting together to use in my ephemera journal. And, you know, like, this is okay. I don't mind that, because, I mean, it doesn't have any weird stuff on there. This is a little bit meh. I don't know. I don't want this on my... This is not an ephemera journal. This is some of the pages that I have been putting together to put in my correspondence journal. And it's just, I'm just using scraps. I'm just using old magazine pages, old book pages, things like that. I don't want to use some of my good dyed paper in here, because I'm going to be putting lots of pockets and things on to hold cards. So most of the paper is going to be covered anyway. But what I am going to do, like this page, I don't particularly care for. I don't want this in the background of some of my cards that I received from you guys. So what I want to do is I'm going to take my gesso and I'm going to knock this back to the background. All of this that I don't care for on here. Now you can do it. You can do a thick layer on here, or you can do a thinner layer on here. That's up to you, how much you want to cover. But I like to, you know, I want to cover a pretty good bit of this, because like I said, I don't really care for that. I don't want that to be in the background of my journal, but yet I want to use these pages because I have a ton of them and I want to get them used up. So what we're going to do is just put a little gesso on there to knock that to the background, and then we can put our pockets and things on the front, and it's all good. You want to cover names and things and make sure that they don't show through, just put a little bit of more on there, a little bit heavy. Just go a little heavy with it. I don't know what I was trying to say there. See? Go a little heavy with it, and it'll cover up any of those names and things that you got on there. So we're just knocking all that to the background. That's all we're doing. And you can go in different directions, and it just makes it look really good, like that page in the paper pad. See? Go in different directions. So therefore, now I like that page because I can put a pocket on there and I don't have all of that other stuff staring at me from the background. Put everything that you don't use right back in your bottle. Now, let me show you a page that I've already done. And it should be nice and dry. There we go. That page is done. It's nice and dry. Now, I put a light layer on this because I didn't mind my little doggy showing, and I didn't mind this guy showing, so I just put a light layer on there. But that's dry, and now that's sealed. If I put water or any other kind of liquid medium on here, it would be fine. It would not go down into my paper and ruin my paper. And then what I'll do is I'll definitely go over this one in the back too, once this one dries, where I can open it up, because I don't particularly care for that, the caveman kind of thing. So you can see that's nice and dry, and I only did it a couple of minutes ago, and now it's ready to be used. So that is another use of the white gesso. Now, oops, I need to leave that open to dry, Missy. Okay. Now, you can also mix some ink or paint or different colors with your gesso if you want to do that too. Let's grab, I just got this in. This is Victorian Velvet. Now, we're not really doing a process, or we're not really doing a tutorial in this one, because I just had so many people that kept asking about this that I wanted to make sure that I went over it so that you would know how to use what's in your kit. All right. Now, all I did was put a little bit of that out on here. I'm going to take a little bit of this Victorian Velvet, just a couple of drops, and this, and it probably won't need a couple of drops. This is the refill for the ink pad. Now, this is not permanent because it's Tim Holtz. His distress inks are not a permanent. But you can see, you can mix that up. Gives you a nice, pretty layer. Look at that. That is pretty. I like that. All right, I'm going to grab another stencil. Hold on. Okay, I'm going to use this rose stencil here. And I'm going to use this paper that came in your kit. And let's see. I'm going to put it down like that. And then I'm just going to go over it and make me some pretty Victorian Velvet roses. Now, I didn't put a lot on here, so you can always mix up more than I do. I'm just putting enough just to show you how this works. And don't think that you can't do it just because you don't have one of these tools, because you can do this with a paintbrush. You can do it with one of those sponge brushes. You can do it with a kitchen, butter knife, piece of cardboard, anything that you have. Just grab something. Doesn't have to be what I have. We will have more of these in hopefully soon. We sold out of all the ones that we had in stock, and of course the supplier doesn't have any more right now, so we're having to wait on them. This year and last year it's just been a waiting game altogether. Okay, then I always just kind of smooth that over. And then let's lift that up and look at that. Look at that. Is that not beautiful? I love that. Now, we're going to wait till that dries. Now, I will tell you something else. You see how this is bowing the paper just a tiny bit. Now, once it dries, it won't be that way. But if you wanted to seal this paper, if you have clear gesso, you can put a layer of clear gesso down. That seals the paper. And then do this on top of that. And it will stand up a lot better. And the paper will stand up to the water or to the liquid a lot better. But it has just a tiny bit, I don't know if you can see it, just a tiny bit of dimension We can still use it in all of our projects, but it's just a really pretty application. I love it. Okay, I'm going to clean this off. I'm going to lay this over here, another drying place. And I'll tell you, if you have stickers or if you do any kind of mailings, these little pieces of paper come off the back of our labels. So I save those and I use them for things like this. So if you have sticker paper or anything that you use that has this type backing, save it. It is fantastic for things like this. Protects your work surface, and you know, you can just wipe it off when you're finished and use it again. Makes a fantastic palette. And that is all cleaned up now. So that is another use for that. Now let's switch over to the clear gesso. Let me make sure I clean this off. The good thing about these is they clean up so easy. They're not like brushes. Brushes don't clean up quite so easy, but they clean up easy peasy. All right, let's get that out of our brush. Now, you can also add a little water to your gesso if it starts getting too thick, or if you need it thinned out, you can add water to it. Doesn't hurt it at all. I would just add like a bottled water, not a water that has a lot of chemicals in it, but just add a little bit of water and you're good to go. All right, let's wipe this up. See, that cleans right off. All right, now let's use some of this clear gesso. Okay, if we have, let's just say we have these little flowers and they're a little bit too flimsy for us, or this little butterfly and it's a little bit too flimsy. You want to make it a little bit thicker so that it will stand up in your project. Then use some of your clear gesso and just paint over it. The thicker the layer, the thicker it's going to end up being, so the more it'll hold up. And then I just lay that aside. Same thing with the little flowers. And it only takes a little bit. So that bottle that you got in your kit, it's going to go a long way. There we go. Now let those dry and they will be ready. You can crumple them up, you can spritz them, you can do all different kinds of things with that, and it's not going to hurt it. So let's see. You can take this little piece of paper that you got in your kit. This is just a little piece of, not a lot, it doesn't take a lot. A little piece of dictionary page, and you can just paint over that. And it just gives it that nice texture. And see how it pulled a little bit of that color off? That's because this was actually printed on a regular printer and not a laser printer, so it kind of does that. But that doesn't hurt a thing. It doesn't hurt anything. And I'm going to tell you, I love both gessos because they both got their own thing, their own purpose. So either one is fine. These little stems that we got, paint over those. Just gives them a little bit more stability, I guess you could call it. I don't know exactly what to say on that part, but it gives it a little bit more stability, I think. Let's see. Okay, let me do this. And this didn't come in your kit, but I'm just going to do this for the video purposes, just because I'm showing you some different things to do. If you have a photo and you wanted to seal that photo because you don't want it to fade, you don't want it to, you don't want anything, like if water hit it, you don't want it to ruin it, that kind of thing, then just take some of the clear gesso, paint right over it. Okay, and now that's sealed. As soon as that dries, it'll be sealed. So anything that you have that you want to seal, you can do it with the gesso. I was looking through here at some of the other goodies that we got in it. And by the way, keep these little things because those little glycine bags are fantastic to use. Let's see. Most all of this is nice and thick, all of your ephemera that you got, so you shouldn't have to worry with that. And don't you just love these little keys? This is a new company that we have started purchasing from, Jewelry Made by Me, and they are in Florida, and we have started purchasing from them. They make these things, so I think they're absolutely adorable. All right, let's see. This should be nice and dry now. Let me get me another wipe because I need to wipe that up right there. Okay. All right. Now, if we wanted to, let's see, what do we want to do? If we wanted to seal this over, which I don't know why you would want to, because this is a permanent ink, so it's not going to go anywhere. All right, let's just use, and I'm going to put a little bit of this Tim Holtz brown ink on here. This is not permanent, but I'm going to put it on here anyway, to this little flower. All right, and then what I'm going to do is crumple that little flower up. Now, this is the flower that I have already put the clear gesso on. Okay, that's what we get. It's a little dimensional flower now. And then I'm going to glue it down right there on that. So put it right there like that. And see how I can manipulate those edges and the little petals and they stay like I put them? That's because it's got that gesso on there. And then let's say I wanted to put, where are the pearls? Let's say I want to put a pearl or a little pearl strip in the center of that. Let's just put a couple of little pearls in there. Those pearls came in your kit too. You got different ones than me probably because I'm using what I have. So there is that little piece. Cute. And now we can make a tag to go down in there. And this is probably going to be too tall. Yep. That one's too tall. It's a good width, but it's too tall. That is some of the ephemera. So let's grab, let me see what I have over here. That might work. I'll trim it off a little. Well, that goes too far down in there. So that one's too little, the other one's too big. We got to come up with one that's the right size. Okay, I may use this one and just trim it off a little bit at the bottom. Yeah, let's just trim this one. Ooh, I'm going to trim my flowers. Let's trim it off a little at the top and then just redo those corners. I don't want to lose my flowers at the bottom. So I am going to use my corner rounder and I'm just going to round the corners. Yeah, I like that. And then we'll put a little bit of ink on here. Oh yeah, I like that. That's the right size right there. Now I'll show you a new punch that I got in. I got this in yesterday and I will link it below. And I think I'm really going to love it. I need to get familiar with exactly how to use it, but I think I'm going to love it. Oh, see, I clipped too close to the top. Like I said, I need to get familiar with exactly how to use it. It actually punches way on back here, and I always think it punches out that way. But that just gives you an idea of how it punches right there. But that's a little bit close, but we're going to use it anyway. And then some of your twine that came in your kit. This makes it really good for seam binding because it gives it that straight cut there. All right, we're going to put that down in there. I'm just going to leave that hole like it is. I'm not going to worry about it. I will put some seam binding in that later. And now we'll go around this little tag, or this little pocket, I should say. And I want to go right there, right across there. Get that. So let me grab a little bit of seam binding to put in. You know, even better, we can put some of the sari silk in there. That's pretty. I think this you got in one of your kits not long ago. And it's the Tim Holtz sari silk. He actually came out with some sari silk this year. And of course, we don't need quite that much. Let's see. Let's pull it down about right there. And then I'm just going to cut that off. Save that one for another one. And then we can tie a little string around that, just like it is. Let me find me a little string. Okay, let's just use a little bit of this string and tie it around there. There we go. And then I'm just going to go ahead and clip that off. Okay. So there is one little version of that. Isn't that cute? And I really don't think that we need too much more on that one. See, we could always put a key on there, but I'm going to save my keys for the little mini album that we're going to do. And someone asked, was we ever going to do anything with our kit? Please be patient. I am working as fast as I can to try to get all of this done. And like I said yesterday, I think it was, Melinda and them are out of town, so it is a lot of work to do. Look at that. We could put that on there. Dream Chaser. Or this photo, you could put that. Oh, I love the feel of that. I don't know if you can hear it, but I love the feel of that now. Could put that down on there. Let's just do that. I like that. I'm going to trim it off a little bit more. It just gives it a different feel. I don't know how to explain it. Until you use it, it's hard to explain that feel. It's almost a little rough texture, but it's, I don't know, it just feels really good. Okay, let me see. I have a dry towel around here somewhere. There we go. There you go. So there's a little tag. Isn't that cute? All right. Let's do, what do we want to do now? See how these are drying? And listen. Isn't that, I love that. Now, I didn't even put any on the back. That's just the front. Same thing with these. It just gives them that really good texture. Okay, I'm going to lay these aside. I've already got gesso on those. So lay those there. Go ahead and clean this little thing off. And let's see what else we want to do. Let's go ahead and drag this back in. This is dry now. Look at that. Now, I'll tell you something else you can do with this. I need to wipe that off. You can, and let me grab my ink. All right, we're going to try this. I haven't tried it on this particular thing, but we're going to try it. This is the Salvage Patina. And we're going to add a little color to these leaves. Now, I'm using this. It would probably be better to use one of those little brushes, but I'm just using this because I had it in my hand. And see, since that's raised, it picks it up more than the background does. Look at that. Isn't that cute? I love how that does that. And then I can go ahead and go around the edges with it. Cute. I love it. And yes, I got a little bit of the paint on the back, or the gesso on the back of this, but that doesn't worry me at all. I like that look. Just makes it look that much more distressed to me. Okay, you could use a little paintbrush to do this too, and it'd be more exact. I'm going to go ahead and put this paintbrush in a wet towel just because we're not using it right this minute, and I don't want it to dry out on me. Okay, now we can make a little tag for this one, and let's just use a piece of this to make a tag with. This is such a thick paper. It's really nice. It'll make fantastic tags. It'll make a great mini album too. Okay, I'm going to cut it right there, because even though, you know, you look at your kit and you think, oh, what am I going to use this for? There are tons of different things to do with the kits. Tons and tons. And just, you know, other people have better ideas than me. So make sure that you are a member of the E-Club Kit on Facebook, because if you are, you'll see all of those fantastic ideas that people do with their kits. I love seeing them. It gives me all kinds of ideas. Now look how good this salvage patina looks with this paper collection. Look at that. That is gorgeous. And you can write on the back of that. Okay, now we're going to try this one more time. And I think, let me look and see which way. I think I'm going to try to do it this way, and then I think I can see maybe. Let's see. Nope. I'm going to try sticking it all the way back in there and see what happens. Well, we got one really far down that time, so I know I don't need to go that far. But that's okay. I'm just practicing right now with it, so as soon as I learn it, I will let you know. All right, we can go ahead and put a little tab on that one if we wanted to. But there is another. Isn't that cute? I love that. And you could also put a little butterfly on there if you wanted to. You could put one of your little wood pieces. These are little thin wood pieces that have been gessoed. Let's see if we have a little butterfly that we might want to include on here. Let's grab one of these that we have put our, oh yeah, let's grab one of those. We have, let me use the brown. We have stamped on this one, and then we put the clear gesso on it. So this one's ready to go, and it's nice and sturdy, so it's not going to tear. Look at that. Isn't that cute? All right, we're going to put that down right there. Now I'm going to tip the wings up just a little bit. Maybe you can see that. And maybe the back wings up a little bit, or the bottom. And then I'm going to put a little piece of bling right down through there. And I might just use our white. Let's see what the white would look like. Yep, I like it. Now this is probably not what you got in your kit, but this is what I have, so this is what I'm using. I don't know if you got this or if you got just a little pack, but it's the same difference. It's just little pearls. Put those little pearls right down through there. And there's another. Isn't that cute? I love it. Okay, so that is two. Now this is, let's see if this is dry yet. This is almost dry. I'm going to give it just a few more minutes while we do something else. We can go ahead and play with this one. This is the one that we just brushed the white gesso on. Now I could go ahead and stamp on top of this if I wanted to. Let's do that, and let's just put it in different areas. Let's don't do a complete stamp, if you know what I mean. Not that one, this one. What we're going to do is I'm just going to hold my finger in that stamp like that, and I'm just going to go at different. Whoops, I had it upside down, but I guess that's okay too. These little stamps are really good for that, for bending around your finger and just using parts of them, because they bend well. They don't, you don't have to struggle with them. So that's good right there. I like that. And I think on this one I'm going to ink it with the brown. I like that contrast between the brown and the white. Look at that. I love that. Oh my goodness. It just looks like an old vintage envelope. And see how well the envelope takes that brown once we have that gesso on there, because it sits on top. It doesn't soak down into the paper so far. Very, very nice. I like it. I like it a lot. Okay. I think that's good. Look at that. Isn't that cute? But I feel like I want another little stamp right in there somewhere. Yeah, that will work. That'll work. Okay, now we're going to put something in there. What are we going to use? Let me think. Close that up. I may actually use a piece of this to go down in there. That's nice and pretty. Let's see, we want it about that tall, so we'll cut it right there. And I'm going to use my paper trimmer to trim this off. There we go. And see how nice that cut, everything, no problem with it. Now I'm going to go over this a little bit with the brown. Let's see, maybe I will use my little brush here. Okay, go ahead and round the corners. And then put some ink on there. Okay, that's ready to go down in there. Just like that, and we can put a little pull tab at the top or a piece of lace, whichever you would want. Let's see, what would we want? I think I might use a little piece of this white seam binding and I think I will color it. And I'm going to use just my blending tool to go over this. And I'm going to color it a light brown just to distress it. There we go. Now we no longer have, and look at that, wherever it was folded, it's got a little bit darker. I like that. All right, then we will trim it off at a little bit of an angle. And I think I will just use my little stapler, my tiny attacher, and I will attach that right there, just like that. And then we'll put that back down in there. And I think I want to trim this one a different way. Let's trim it like this. And then trim this one off just a little bit more. Like that. All right, there we go. Got that in there. And I don't know that I want anything on the front of that. Let me think. Do I want anything on the front? Oh, that would be cute. Let's see. Trying to think if I have... I wonder how those little pearls would look if we put that. I think we might put this on there. But I'm going to put a little bit of gesso on it first because I want it to be a couple of different colors. I don't want it to be all that brown. And I'm just going to use my fingers on this one. This washes off really well, so you don't have to worry about it staining your hands or anything. I'm just going to use this. See, I want it a little bit white, not just solid, because you know your branches are not all solid. And I'm just using what's on the outside there of my bottle. And if you feel like you get a little much before it dries, you can wipe that on off. Come on now. Stay like a butcher. There we go. And I'm just going to take my dry towel and I'm just going to touch it with my dry towel. I'm not going to take any off. I'm just touching it just to dry it a little bit. So that is what our branch looks like now. And I think now that will look much better on there. It blends in a little bit much, so what we can do now is we can come right back with some of this brown and go right on top of that. Yeah, that works better. I like that. Okay, put that right there and then press that down. And there's our little branch on there. Isn't that cute? And you know, if you to me that's blending in a little much. So what you can do, if you feel like it's blending in a little too much, just take a brown marker or something and go right over top of that. This is a little Sharpie, and it's going to go right over the top just to give it a little bit more color back in there. Just kind of put it on and then take your finger and spread it out a little bit. Just gives it that little bit of dimension. There you go. So you've got that little bit of dimension in there that gives it that extra little oomph so that it'll come off of your page a little bit. So there we are with that. Got a string hanging on me. And put a little bit of glue right here. Okay, so there is another. Let's close this back up. I will tell you, the more you leave your gesso open, the drier it gets. So if it gets too dry, like I said, just add a little bit of water to it and it will be fine. I'll go ahead and grab a clean page, and then look at this one. That's going to make a beautiful tag, or we could put this in a journal. Go ahead and do the rest of it and put that in a journal. Isn't that pretty? And it's nice and dry. Doesn't come off. Well, my hands are nasty right now, but it didn't come off. Look at that. All right, so that is just a few ways that you can use some of the product that came in your kit. We haven't used very much of the paper yet, but I'm saving most of my paper to do a little mini album with. But this just gives you some ideas of how you use your gesso. Because I had lots of people saying, I've never had gesso before, I don't know how to use it, so will you show us some things to do with it? And there you are. That is just a few. Like I said, all you need to do is go to YouTube and just type in gesso tutorials, and you will see all sorts of ideas on how to use gesso in your projects. If you like to do mixed media, gesso is the thing for you. You have to have gesso. But you can also use it in your journals and in your regular projects, as I showed here. This is now nice and dry. It's got a good texture. Love that. So I can put my pockets on that now. That one's dry. We can go ahead and cover some of these others so that we'll have our journal ready. All right, guys, that is it for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, leave them below, and I'll try to answer them as best that I can. We will come back and do another tutorial using the paper pad and all of that to do a little mini album. So we will talk to you guys later. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.